So Scotia is a private game reserve, which means we are not part of the government in any way. It's a privately owned piece of land, and a game reserve is set up with a big game fence right around it to protect those animals within it. And we are able to very well conserve and protect those species within this reserve. We have a wonderful balance of both bush and grass. So we have a lot of browsers and grazing antelope and species. So it's a very well balanced reserve. Scotia has two sections. We've got one fence through the middle. The main reason to have a dividing fence is so that we can have control of both sections, and we are able to decide what species we want in which camp. We have the lions in one section, and in that section with the lions we have numerous animals that the lions can feed on or predate on. In the other section, there's only jackal, lynx and hyena. The more endangered and rare animals are safe. For example, buffalo. They can breed without the calves being eaten, and lots of other species that we can manage and keep separate from the lions. Lions aren't the only resident cat species at Scotia. They're the only really large cat that has a huge impact on the species here. They're the apex predator at Scotia. If we were to bring in cheetah, for example, there would just be too much hunting taking place and too much consumption of wildlife. So all the time we are checking the numbers and making sure there's a balance so that animals can breed at a similar rate as to what the lions are killing them. You know, in the early days when we still had our own staff living on the reserve, unfortunately there was poaching taking place, which meant that these guys wanted a bit of extra meat and they would go out and set snares and other traps and catch animals on our property. The only poaching incident we've had recently was of our 2 rhinoceros. Of course there's a big demand in Asia now for their horns, and fortunately our 2 rhino were not killed. They were tranquilized and their horns were removed, and fortunately well removed. And since then they've been okay. Our rangers on the ground are pretty good at keeping vigilant, and we've beefed it up a bit more since then. So I think that could be why we haven't had any more incidents. Things are looking bright for the protection of wildlife in South Africa. There's a lot more transition taking place from normal domestic farming to game farming, whether it be for viewing or hunting or breeding or whatever it might be. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that don't want to protect the wildlife, and people that are poaching, etc., and we have to fight against all of them. Yeah, at Scotia we've got our own little pocket of paradise, our own little protected area that we can conserve and look after. And yeah, the more reserves and areas like us that are conserved, the better.